better shape. Thanks for rescheduling this meeting and doing it before the end of the month. We had some timelines that we had to get some of these approved before the end of the month for our applicants. So we'll jump right into it. Got a lot to cover today. Our agenda, we're going to talk about our Build Kansas Fund structure, as we always do. We'll talk about some of the new federal awards we've just received recently here in the month of January. Talk about the performance of the Build Kansas Fund. We'll do some updates about the Kansas Infrastructure Hub, and then talk about our 3 applications we have for advice today. As always, our Build Kansas Fund structure, we are here to help our local communities get federal awards through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. It's also known as the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA. That'll become a little more important here later on because of some of the way the new executive orders are worded. The BIL is a national infrastructure investment of $1.2 trillion. 40% of that is discretionary, meaning it's got competitive grant programs. And that's what we focus on with the Build Kansas Fund and try to provide matches to our communities here in Kansas for those competitive grant programs. This slide, I know it's a little hard to read, just to show that there are 2 tracks. We have our federal grant application track, which our applicants are pursuing when they apply for a federal grant on the top. And on the bottom is our Build Kansas Fund application track. We try to tell them to apply to both these programs at the same time so that they get their award letter. We get them approved by the advisory committee. We get their award letter out to them. They can then include that in their application for the federal grant, which looks really good because they've got the standing of the state of Kansas behind them for their grant application matched dollars. As always, we as the hub, our office, the infrastructure hub, is not selecting any projects. We bring these to the advisory committee for advice only. These projects are only awarded Build Kansas funding if they are awarded a federal grant. So we will actually award projects Build Kansas funding, but the funding is not committed to them until they actually win a federal grant. Again, this is additive only. We do not require them to use the Build Kansas Fund or to use the Kansas Infrastructure Hub for any of their activities. This is just an additive feature. Again, we supply the match dollars if they need it and provide technical advice to them as well. All right. It's been a really exciting month with the new administration coming in. A lot of executive orders have been issued by the Trump administration. These are a few of them that have come out in last week on January 20th, and a lot of them had impacts to infrastructure investments here in the state of Kansas. Some don't have an impact, but could have an impact depending on how the new administration and the agencies implement these executive orders. 2 of them I want to make you aware of, though. So on Monday, January 20th, President Trump signed a rescission of 78 previous executive orders. Within those 78, there were 2 executive orders that rescinded the implementation guidance for the IIJA, or the BIL, and the Inflation Reduction Act. Now, that rescission was only a rescission of guidance, was not a rescission of funding. But this was expected. With any new administration, they come in, they'll revise the guidance or revise the guidelines for these grant programs, and we fully expected that. In fact, we just saw one come out on Friday where they took and renamed a program and didn't change any of the guidance, but they took and renamed the program, took out the word sustainability and equity out of the title of the program. So again, expected with the new administration. The other one that's more important was an executive order titled Unleashing American Energy. And again, this was signed on January 20th. And in Section 7 of that executive order, there was wording in there that, if read the way it was put into the executive order, paused all funding from the IIJA and the IRA. Now, this caused a lot of consternation in Kansas as well as across the country. The next day, the Office of Management and Budget put out a clarifying memo saying, that they did not intend for it to read that way, did not intend for it to pause all funding from the IIJA and the IRA. It was only intended to pause funding related to charging and fueling infrastructure for electric vehicles. So we've gotten a few panic calls and emails from folks, but again, not the case where it paused all funding, just funding related to EV infrastructure. Any questions there? Okay. We've had a lot of federal awards take place here in Kansas over the last few weeks. As I've told the committee over the last 2 months that we would see a flurry of activity from the Biden-Harris administration before the inauguration, and we did. In the last week before the inauguration, we saw a lot of grant awards being pushed out the door. A few of them that we received, one was a raise grant for $25 million to the Port Authority of Stafford County. This is for a transload facility, which is a rail to truck or truck to rail transition facility. This would be in Stafford County, just near St. John, Kansas. And what they have received is $25 million from the RAISE program, which is now called the BUILD program, plus $5 million of BUILD Kansas funding. What this will allow is for them to ship more commodities via rail they would normally have shipped by a truck. So fertilizer, grain, chemicals, plastics, that type of thing. There were two railroad crossing elimination grants that used the BUILD Kansas Fund. One was for the city of Spring Hill. This is for a rail corridor elimination planning study that they're going to do between Spring Hill and Fort Scott, including the city of Fontana. They received $107,500 from the BUILD Kansas Fund and received a federal award of $1.72 million. Then the city of Liberal had their Liberal Crossing Analysis for Routes Enhancing Safety, or Liberal CARES. They received $305,000 in BUILD Kansas funds and a federal award of just over $1.6 million. And that one will look at a 4-mile stretch of rail crossings in Liberal, looking for a safer way to get across the 4-mile track area where lots of crossings are at, and also potentially do a grade separation project down there as well. We also received word about 3 airport infrastructure or AIG grant awards in the state of Kansas. The city of Emporia received a federal award of just under $450,000. The city of Sabetha received a federal award of just over $300,000, and Stanton County received a federal award of just under $450,000. All of these, again, used BUILD Kansas funds as their matching funds. And all were for taxiway improvements at these airports. We had some other grant wins that did not use BUILD Kansas funds. There was a Rural Surface Transportation Grant Program win for Hamilton and Edwards County, and it totaled $26.7 million. The matching dollars excuse me, for that program came from KDOT. There was also a railroad crossing elimination grant program win in the city of Gardner for the Moonlight Road grade separation planning study, and the city of Olathe for the Olathe West Track Rail crossing study. Those ones received respectively $536,000 in federal funds and $1.75 million in federal funds, with those matches coming from Burlington Northern Santa Fe. There was also an award to the Flint Hills Rural Electric Cooperative of $500,000 for a solar project. Now, along with those wins, we do get awards that we did not get selection for here in Kansas. The 5 up on the screen right now are through the Active Transportation Infrastructure and Investment Program, or ATIIP. We had 5 applications come from the state of Kansas. None of those were awarded. What I will say about this program, probably one of the most oversubscribed federal grant programs I've ever seen. They had 350 applications that were asking for over $1 billion. They only awarded 14 applications for $45 million. That's all they had. So they had a lot of applications that did not get awarded. So no surprise that we were not awarded any grants here. Only a very few were awarded around the country. Other ones that were not selected, we had one in Jackson County for a rural road safety application. That was again through the U.S. DOT Rural Surface Transportation Grant Program. The city of Dodge City, they're removing barriers to elevate rural America, was not awarded. The city of Osawatomie had a pedestrian overpass study they wanted to do. That was not awarded. And then Dodge City's Connecting City Corridor Planning and Design Project was a railroad cost elimination grant. That one was also not awarded. All those funds that were committed by the BUILD Kansas Fund are then recycled back into the BUILD Kansas Fund for reallocation to other projects in the future. Just some notes on our performance to date for the Build Kansas Fund. To date, we've approved 68 applications, not including the 3 that we're going to review today. 38 of those have been awarded a federal grant. We've got 11 that are awaiting award, and then 19 have not been awarded a federal grant. The good news here is that our award rate is at 66%, which is phenomenal in the grant industry. And we've got twice as many awards we have non-awards here in the state of Kansas. From a monetary perspective, we have committed just under $35 million of the Build Kansas Fund to the projects that were awarded federal grants. Again, we have roughly $5 million that we're still awaiting federal award or federal award notice about, and then just over $60 million of money that was meant to go to projects that were not awarded federal grants. Again, that money gets restored back to the Build Kansas Fund. The good news here is that we've ticked over the $100 million mark in funding between the federal awards and the Build Kansas Fund. We're roughly at $110 million now. That $34 million that we've, $34.63 million, the Build Kansas Fund that we've committed has brought back in just over $75 million worth of federal funding for a return on investment of 219%. It's good news for Kansas. These dashboards, these are on our website. You can look at these. This one here on the left-hand side shows a map of where the projects are located at. The green dots represent the awarded projects. The yellow dots represent projects that have not been awarded yet. On the lower right is a graph showing one of the measures that we have, which is to commit at least $10 million to Build Kansas funding to each of the 8 economic development districts in the state of Kansas. That graph there shows our progress. You can see the Great Plains District in southwest Kansas. They've had 2 very big awards, so they are well over the $10 million mark at this point. This dashboard here shows the applications that have been awarded by infrastructure sector. So it shows here the number of awards in transportation, energy, resilience, and water. And then of the 11 that are still awaiting federal award, it shows where they fit into the resilience, energy, water, and transportation sectors as well. Again, these are on our website. And then finally, dashboard-wise, we have one in the upper left-hand side shows the amount of Build Kansas funds of the $200 million that have been committed so far. Number of awards are in the lower left-hand corner. The number of applications are in the lower left-hand corner. The number of awards are in the upper right-hand corner, and then the total federal funding received is in the lower right-hand corner. Again, just over $75 million received so far. Some updates about the Build Kansas Fund and Kansas Infrastructure Hub. One thing I want to make you all aware of is a new program that we've got called the Grant Application and Administration Assistance Program. So the communities in our state face 3 main hurdles when it comes to grant applications. Number one, they don't have technical knowledge about grant programs, nor do they have the time to filter through a lot of the information that's coming down from Washington, D.C. We mitigate that by providing technical assistance to those communities through our office and through our technical assistance team. The second thing is these large federal match requirements are just too much for their budgets to be able to handle. Again, we mitigate that through the Build Kansas Fund by providing these match dollars. The third hurdle that they face is the lack of experience and capacity to develop a professional grant application, something that's going to be competitive at the federal level. They don't have the ability to hire or the funding to be able to hire professional grant writers. That is the subject of this new program that we've got, and this is one where we will actually be able to provide assistance, financial assistance to our local communities so that they can hire professional grant writers. And we've started this program off, or we want to start this program off with targeting our smaller cities and our smaller counties, cities less than 10,000, counties less than 50,000. We really want them to utilize the service to be able to hire professional grant writers, get more competitive grant applications, which are going to lead to more awards for the state of Kansas at the federal level. We've got a hub operations funding for this. We have $500,000 in our budget, which you approved last April, and we're proposing to use that $500,000 we budgeted to start this program off as soon as possible. There's information in your packet about the program, about our guidance. If you'd like to review that, and if you have any questions, please let us know. We also do have a new website. The website is now ks.gov. We changed it from the .org website that we've had for the past couple of years. This went live last month. This one has all of our Build Kansas Fund awards on it, has information about how to apply for the Build Kansas Fund, has an event calendar on it, has information on how to get a hold of us, how to contact us, and just general information related to grants, grant programs, application advice, and our entire Build Kansas Fund and the Kansas Infrastructure Hub as well. We also have a new webinar series that we started on grant education. We had our first one on January 22nd, last Wednesday. We had over 70 people attend that webinar, and we do these webinars now on the first Wednesday of every month. And they basically address various grant writing advice and information. We also have our third Kansas Infrastructure Summit that's going to be taking place on April 23rd in Lindsborg, Kansas. Everyone's, of course, invited to that if you can save the date. Again, at that grant summit, it's a one-day event. We start at 9 a.m., go till 3:30 p.m. It's in central Kansas, allows folks to be able to travel to this and do it all in the same day. We'll be going through various grant programs, give updates on the Build Kansas Fund, give updates on the Kansas Infrastructure Hub. We'll have presentations from the various state agencies that are part of our steering committee, and other presentations related to grant application writing. All right, finally, applications for advice. We have 3 of those today. We have one that is an airport infrastructure grant from the city of Lawrence. We have 2 that are, again, here's one change that popped up here just recently. This the RAISE program, which was the Rebuilding America Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. The name got changed over the weekend. It is now the Better Utilized Investments to Leverage Development, or BUILD. This is the name of the program when President Trump was in office previously. So we have 2 applications for that program, City of Wichita and Montgomery County. So the first one, City of Wichita, number 2025-080. This is, again, a BUILD program grant application. This one here is for connecting Kansas through multimodal improvements at US 54 and 400. This is at the Eisenhower Airport interchange. And this one here is an 80-20 match, requires 80%, will be 80% federal funding, 20% local match. Their Build Kansas Fund request amount is $540,000. They are contributing, making a local contribution of $60,000. The federal funding to be unlocked would be $2.4 million for a total project cost of $3 million. Essentially, they're trying to improve the pedestrian and transit infrastructure at that interchange going to and from the Eisenhower Airport. We bring this to you today for final advice.
All right, thank you, Matthew. Committee, are there any questions in regards to this application for the City of Wichita? Senator Petty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry for being late. I was trying to do this in my office and I didn't have the paperwork. So when he talks about, excuse me if I'm asking questions that may have already been answered before, but it says improving for pedestrian safety. Is that or sidewalks? Are we talking about sidewalks?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that interchange area there is not essentially not built for pedestrian access. It wasn't designed with that in mind. Designed for getting cars and vehicles into the airport. But no, they're going to be doing some improvements to the bridges to get safer sidewalks across there, as well as make some transit improvements to allow for more ability to have transit stops in that area as well.
Senator Petty.
Thank you. So do you know, I mean, I'm just thinking about, I live in the Kansas City metropolitan area and KCI, so I mean, and there's no sidewalks, and it's a brand new airport. I mean, it's a brand new, well, the airport location's not new, but the airport's new. So are we talking about the airport specific or to the airport? And it seems like, how much mileage is this going to, I mean, how many miles or blocks is this going to cover?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, you shouldn't focus so much on the airport, it just happens to be the interchange at the
Okay.
airport.
right.
And really, they're serving, if you look at the map in the back of their application, they're serving a lot of the community in and around that interchange, as well as a new trail system that goes off to the west, a new bike, rails to trails, bike trail that they're putting in out there. I believe they're really the goal of their study is more for the businesses and residential areas that are in and around that interchange, more than just the airport. It just happens to be the airport interchange, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for Matthew? Any objection to this application? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead. Representative Helgerson.
I'm sorry. I'm slow. I'm not going to say no, but I'm sure questioning it. I don't know if we've had the discussion about whether or not federal funds and state funds should be used for improving auxiliary programs as opposed to, I'll say, first tier, roads, water programs. You know, I use this all the time, and I don't know what they're going to use it for. Yes, it may be needed by some people, but most people go directly to the airport, park their vehicles. The interchange I think you're referring to is down the street. My fear is they're going to have more bicycles driving in the area, which no drivers in Wichita appreciate what has happened. So I'm not going to block it or say but I question the need and the planning, the $3 million for the planning dollars.
Right. Yeah, and that question's come up before from the committee regarding planning dollars. I will say that planning is essential. I mean, it really is. And in this case, they're going to use the planning funds to develop various alternatives, project alternatives. They're going to be going out and getting community engagement, getting community input on the project design itself, really trying to provide a good plan and good design so that they can apply for future funding and make sure that they're doing this in the right manner.
Any other comments? All right, see no objection, we'll go ahead and send this on based off consensus and see what the federal government decides as far as their grant program. Matthew.
All right, thank you. Next one up is number 2025-081. This is City of Lawrence, and this is an airport infrastructure grant. This project will be for the rehabilitation and reconstruction of the apron at Taxiway C at the Lawrence Regional Airport. We've seen a lot of these airport infrastructure grants in the past, and a lot of them are doing the same thing. They're rehabilitating taxiways. This particular one is requesting $28,456 in the Build Kansas Fund. They are contributing $1,422 local funding, and this will potentially unlock federal funding worth $569,136 for a total project cost of $599,015. And so we bring this again to you today for final advice. One thing I failed to note at the start of with the previous project and with this project and with the following project, I do have a potential conflict of interest. All three of these projects have involvement from Garver Engineering. My wife works at Garver Engineering. She is not involved in any of these projects, but I just want to make sure you're aware of that.
All right. Thank you for letting us know that. Committee, any questions in regards to the application for the City of Lawrence? Seeing none, is there any objection? All right, seeing none, this one will be forwarded on to the federal government as well. And now the final application that we have today is Montgomery County. Matthew.
Thank you. This is number 2025-084 from Montgomery County. This project is an upgrade to County Road 4400. This is the county road that supports the Azure Bartlett Bioag facility in Montgomery County. They want to essentially upgrade County Road 4400 to allow for more heavy truck traffic in and around that plant. They're requesting $2,948,232 in Build Kansas funding. Their local contribution is $155,171. Has a potential to unlock $12,413,608 in federal funding for a total project cost of $15,517,011. Again, we bring this to you for final advice.
Committee, any questions in regards to this application? Is there any objection? All right, seeing none, this one will be forwarded on as well. So I believe that is all the applications that we have. Representative Helgerson.
We originally had the discussion, this program is going to be for roads, maybe a little bit of water and sewer systems or whatever. I am totally unfamiliar with the federal programs available for water. And are there a lot of programs out there where there's money available for water programs, for streams, for cleaning up, et cetera, that go begging?
Matthew.
I'm sorry.
Matthew.
Yep, thank you. I would say they don't go begging. I would say that they do get oversubscribed, meaning that they have more applications than what they have funding for. I will say that the amount of funding that is in those programs is much less than what is in transportation programs. And we see that when we go out and do presentations to various communities and audiences around the state. We present slides about these various grant programs, and the dollar values in the water programs are much less than they are in transportation programs.
Representative Helgerson.
Well, what occurred to me when the governor was making her presentation of $30 or $40 million additional every year that they are proposing, that maybe it should be looked at least discussed, folding this into this program so that we have a matching program for water or use the same funds as opposed to using all state general fund. And I haven't been briefed, or I think I will be briefed about the program, but.
Now you will be.
Good.
No, I would say some of the items that the governor is including in her budget in regards to the $30 million that you're referencing to about water, I don't think would fit within the criteria of what was in the bipartisan infrastructure law, because it's like sorghum testing. It's more, this is more infrastructure, like water infrastructure needs. So I would say what she included in her budget, I believe last year, in regards to the small town infrastructure water grants, that would possibly have worked in here. I think what's been discussed in the consult meetings and what's been proposed in her budget is more aligned with the water plan, which would not exactly fit within the criteria of this program. Any other questions? Senator Billinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Going back on the Kansas grant wins, you had one there that's matched by KDOT. Can you tell me how much? And I didn't know KDOT was matching these.
Yeah, I'm going to have to defer that question to Kate. I don't know what their total match amount is on that particular project.
Okay, if you get that for me, I'd appreciate it.
But I think those were outside of the Build Kansas.
We had several awards that were outside of Build Kansas funds. They did not use Build Kansas funds. They had other sources for match dollars.
I think the match came from KDOT for the federal match.
Correct.
Okay, that's where it was at. But they didn't use Build Kansas dollars for that.
Correct.
Any other comments? Representative Hoffman.
So what I've noticed is that a lot of times these are, we get a batch of one set of grants, and as far as one program and then another program. So is there any way for you to let us know what programs are coming available? I know it's quick. I know the feds, they kind of throw it out there. But is there any way that you could let us know that, hey, there's these sewer programs coming available, or whatever the programs are? Or is that on the website?
Matthew.
Yeah, so that is on the website.
Okay.
There is a list of grant programs that are out there that are active right now. Now, I will tell you that a lot of these grant programs are cyclical. They come around every year. And so we sort of have sort of a rhythm to these, and we sort of know that they're going to be coming out. And we do make people aware of these ahead of time. And we have a whole, again, we have a whole presentation that we do about grant programs that are active, but then we also try to include, please be advised that this program is scheduled to come out. And the federal government even has a website where they will push out information about grant programs as they are going to be coming up in the next few months. Now, things are a little bit chaotic right now as far as in the US DOT and the other federal agencies as far as getting this information out right now, but we expect that to calm down in the next couple of months and the information will start flowing again.
Okay, well, I was just curious, because I mean, I don't know, except for Montgomery County, I mean, everything today was pretty well big cities, you know, and so I was just kind of, I don't want our little communities to get lost in the shuffle, and so if, you know, if I knew that there was these programs available, then maybe I could, you know, tell my communities. So basically, I just need to look on the website is kind of what you're telling me.
Yeah, and what I would say is also look at our awards list that's on the website as well. And you'll find that the vast majority of our Bill Kansas Fund awards go to our small communities here in Kansas. We are also available to come out and speak, and we frequently are out talking at conferences, at meetings, talking with our small towns and our communities. We have a very large technical assistance team that covers the entire state of Kansas. And we are out there constantly talking to folks about grants and grant programs. In fact, the last year we've had over 1,000 contacts here in the state of Kansas. And Representative Waymaster, I want to make you aware, next month we're actually taking a trip out to northwest Kansas. We're going to stop in Hayes. We're going to go up to Norton. We're going to meet up there with the Northwest Kansas Regional Planning Commission, as well as meet with John Braun in Hayes, talk about the R9 project. So we try to go out on these trips and try to meet up with folks and give them information about grant programs and encouragement, really, to apply for these federal dollars.
Yeah, I think that's the big issue, is that encouragement to help those small communities do it. So appreciate it. Thank you.
For a second time, Senator Billinger.
Thank you. Being you brought up the water project in Hayes, that was submitted. Have we heard anything on that?
So that project was submitted last year for a BRIC grant. They were not awarded that BRIC grant. The fiscal year 25 BRIC grant, notice of funding opportunity, is out right now, and it is due here in the next couple of months. So they'll be applying again based on what I've talked with representatives from that project.
So they didn't receive one last year.
They did not receive one.
Reapplying this year.
Right.
Thank you.
They received that technical assistance grant, which is a no dollar value grant, but it really was just technical assistance to help them get their application ready for this next round of BRIC funding.
And again, when we had the discussion last year, are they coordinating also with the city of Russell, since they're both, well, Hayes is more of an owner of the R9 Ranch, but Russell has ownership in that as well?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, when we have phone calls with the folks regarding that project, it is both Russell and Hayes on the phone calls.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, so we'll go back to the one of the first items on the agenda was the approval of the minutes from November 20th, 2024. Were there any changes to those minutes? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Representative Francis moves, seconded by Representative Helgerson. All those in favor of approving the minutes say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Also on the interim folders that you have on your desk, if you're wishing to take those with you, I think they would like you to take those with you so the staff doesn't have to deal with them. Senator Billinger? Oh, yeah, Susan, if you'll mark Senator Billinger as abstained. All right, until our next meeting, we are adjourned.